The MacBook line is really confusing. I'm not even gonna lie. Apple really has to get their stuff together because it's really hard deciding between these premium laptops. Whether you're using it for school or for more professional applications, it's starting to get really hard to distinguish one from the other. Today I'll be looking at the MacBook. Now hold on a second, didn't you already review the MacBook? Yes I did, but that was the MacBook Air. This is the MacBook. Just the MacBook. Let's just dive right in.
It's the kind of beat to go.
Well, look at what we have here. We have the 12-inch MacBook. So there's always a lot of confusion on which MacBook you should get. I've had several people already come up to me because the MacBook line is just too confusing. So what we have here is the 12-inch MacBook. So just doing a quick look at some of these specs. So this is going to be a 12-inch LED backlit Retina display with 2304 by 1440 pixels. So the resolution is actually pretty good. It's going to boast a measly 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Intel M3 processor, turbo boost up to 3 gigahertz. Hold up. Some of these smartphones are much faster and more powerful than this MacBook. What the hell is going on? Let's continue. It's going to come with 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, so already a generation behind from the DDR4 RAM, 256 gigs of SSD. That's a big increase from, I guess, your entry-level MacBook Air, and this is going to be the entry-level MacBook as well. So this is what I anticipate most people pick up if you do pick this up. But words of advice, don't pick this product up. Alright, we're also going to have Intel HD graphics 615, which are boo-boo. You can find much better graphics on other laptops competing with this, especially at the price tag that this MacBook comes in. And you're going to have all of your other things like your FaceTime camera and all of the things that just should come standard. Alright, so let's go ahead and unbox it. Now, I couldn't find a knife again, but I did find a guitar pick. Alright, let's get it opened. There it is. So I did pick up the silver version. Apple now, they used to have it in 4 colors. They used to have it in silver, space gray, gold, and pink. But now they only have it in silver, space gray, and the new gold. But the new gold is basically pink, so I didn't pick that up. So let's go ahead and lift this up and set this aside. Now, hands down, though, this is going to be the lightest and sleekest MacBook. Really quickly, we're going to have our charging cable, USB 3 to USB 3. We are going to have our literature packet as well. So let's see if we're going to get our stickers in there. Hope they're matching as well. So just some introductions on how to use your MacBook, some regulatory information, and some white boo-boo Apple stickers. I was hoping that they'd be color matched, and they're not. Or they might be. I'm not sure if it's just because I picked up the silver model. And then lastly, we're going to have our 30-watt power adapter. So I forgot to mention in previous videos that this is a travel adapter, because what you can do is you have these folding prongs here that you can just fold away. So now getting right into the MacBook. So the naming, everything about this lineup is stupid. Okay, not everything, but the naming specifically is really dumb. So you're going to have the MacBook Air, which implies it's the skinniest one and the thinnest one, but it's not. This one actually is the thinnest MacBook. The MacBook Air is also implying that it's as light as air. And let me tell you right now, it's not. This one is actually a lot lighter than the MacBook Air. So most compact MacBook right here, we have the MacBook Air, the MacBook, and then the MacBook Pro. Really stupid naming. Like, they should really change that up. It confuses a lot of people. So anyways, let's pull this plastic. I know a lot of you guys like to listen to the pulling of this plastic, so I'll shut the hell up right now. Nah, I'm kidding. Slick inside. I really do like the pulling of that plastic too. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this set up and give my review on the 12-inch MacBook, if I can get it open. Alright guys, and so now giving you guys a tour on the 12-inch MacBook. You gotta give it to Apple. They make some sexy ass products, and it's no different with this all aluminum MacBook. So we're gonna have our reflective Apple logo here on the top. So again, we're not gonna have an Apple glowing logo. Here, as you can kind of see, it's gonna be extremely thin. As a matter of fact, this product is gonna be as small as basically your headphone jack there. I mean, it is tiny. And so in this MacBook, we're not gonna have any physical fans inside. outside it actually has a different type of cooling system. But nonetheless, the chipset in this MacBook isn't gonna allow it to get that hot anyway. If you ever try to put a really graphic intensive task or say editing on there, because there's no fans, your chip is going to be down throttled like hell. It's just going to run extremely slow, and it's from the same fact that there's no fans in here. So this product is going to run as quiet as can be. And over here, what I'm going to touch on later, and probably the biggest downside to this computer, is the one and only USB 3C port. That's all you're going to get in terms of ports. Really just that, and then your headphone port right over here. It is going to feature your second generation butterfly mechanism, so it's going to be a little louder. The screen, of course, is going to be a Retina screen, and right over here we're going to have our speakers. And so just as a direct comparison, we're going to have the MacBook Air on the bottom and then the MacBook on top. So as you can see, in terms of size, they're very similar, but the 12-inch MacBook is just a hair smaller. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the profile, so you can kind of see that the MacBook 12-inch is going to be smaller. And we can also see that right over here on this side as well. So in terms of size and portability, your 12-inch MacBook is gonna win, but is it really worth it when it's gonna be more expensive, or if not the same price as your newly released MacBook Air? Alright guys, so I did run some benchmarks, that way we can really see what the processor is doing and how powerful it is. So on the right, we're gonna have the MacBook Air I just reviewed, and we're also gonna have the 12-inch MacBook on the left. So as you can see, it definitely trounces it over here on the OpenGL score, 25 versus 34. So in terms of graphics, your MacBook Air is just going to be leagues ahead of your 12-inch MacBook. So if you're going to do any video editing or photo editing, forget it. You're going to get so many drop frames, and it's just going to lag behind tremendously. On the CPU score as well, we do see slight differences. Over here on the 12-inch, we get 257, and over here on the MacBook Air, we get 272. So still underpowered as compared to its cheaper, yes, cheaper MacBook Air. And that's going to be a recurring theme that I'm just going to keep bombarding you with, is that this is a more expensive product starting at $1,300 versus this MacBook Air that starts at $1,200. Let's look at some Geekbench scores. Single core score, we get 3,600. On the MacBook Air, we get 4,200. And again, as you may have guessed, multi-core score is going to underperform by a whole 1,000 points. With that being said, the 12-inch MacBook is just not going to be the best for processing power. Definitely look elsewhere. Maybe your MacBook Air if you're not really going to do graphic intensive tasks, or even the MacBook Pro if you're thinking about video editing. Now, of course, as with all MacBook and iMac models, Apple does allow you to really customize your device depending on your workload. So that doesn't mean that this can't be any more powerful. It can be. So you have different options of 1.3 gigahertz dual core i5, which is going to be a huge improvement because you're going from an M3 to an i5 processor, or you can go all the way up to a 1.4 gigahertz i7 processor. But definitely look at how much you're adding to your overall price, and at that point, why bother? For that money, get an entry-level MacBook Pro. I mean, you can get a spec'd out MacBook Pro with higher specs by just doing this. If you want to upgrade your memory up to 16 gigs, now your device is a whopping $1,750. An entry-level MacBook Pro is about that price. The 15-inch MacBook Pro, you're already getting really close to that price point, and your MacBook Pro is going to be miles ahead of the 12-inch MacBook. So definitely do not upgrade any of the internals when it comes to your 12-inch MacBook. This device really is just for someone who prefers portability and having the thinnest device possible. This is not meant to be a powerful laptop, so definitely keep that in mind when purchasing the 12-inch MacBook. Alright, now I'm probably not cutting the MacBook enough slack. It is a really well-engineered and well-designed product, and it does have a niche in the market. It's just that for me, having to use computers that are very powerful are just a given. But check this out. Steve Jobs, when he first introduced the MacBook Air, did it in such an elegant way. And what he did is he pulled out the MacBook Air, and that's what we're going to do here. This is actually the 12-inch MacBook, but it just kind of tells you how compact and how small this computer really is to fit in a 10 by 12 letter. Now, the computer is going to have a lot of great things about it, especially its portability. It only weighs about 2 pounds. It is extremely light, very thin, and for some people that's exactly what you're looking for, is the portability. Again, for more perspective, here's the new iPad. Yo, it's the same size. If not, the iPad is gonna be, yup, it's slightly longer there. And for something that small to contain all those electronics and components inside is an engineering marvel. So props to Apple for that. So now what I'd like to do is just do a side-by-side comparison on the speakers and on the keyboard on these two devices, since the keyboard is actually going to be different, but in a lot of ways the same way. The 12-inch MacBook is going to sport your second generation butterfly keyboard, whereas the MacBook Air I previously reviewed is going to sport the third generation. And really all that is, the MacBook Air, the third generation keyboard, is going to be a lot quieter. So let's say I'm pretending to type up a document. So there's going to be minor differences in terms of sound, but I know in a quiet classroom when you're trying to type as softly as you can, you don't want to be overwhelming everyone with your typing. So let's go ahead and take a look at the speakers on these. So in terms of speaker quality, these two laptops are very similar. You do see minor improvements with the Air because, I mean, well, it is a bigger computer, therefore it has more space to house bigger and better speakers. But I think what everyone really wants to come down to it is really just compare these two side by side and see which one is the best one for you. So without further ado, we're going to pit up the MacBook 12-inch versus the MacBook Air. So for round one, we're going to look at design on both of these computers. Now, hands down, Apple is very well known for creating beautiful and elegant looking products. That's what they've just been known for. And sometimes they compromise usability over aesthetically pleasing devices. But in this case, both of these MacBooks are fire. These are jaw-dropping. One of the sexiest computers hands down. But I will give it the edge to the 12-inch MacBook just because of how sleek it looks. It's thinner, it's more compact, and man, it just looks so good to look at. And with that being said, I'm not saying the MacBook Air looks bad at all. This is just my opinion, but for round one, I do have to give it to the 12-inch MacBook. Moving right along to round two, we're going to look at power and performance. So as you could see earlier in the Geekbench and Cinebench test, the MacBook Air definitely outdid the MacBook in terms of processing power and also in graphical performance. Inside your entry-level MacBook and MacBook Air, you're going to find a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core M3 processor on your 12-inch MacBook, whereas on your MacBook Air, you're going to find your 8th generation 1.6 gigahertz dual-core i5 processor. So when it comes to power and performance, round two hands down has to go to the MacBook Air. Going now into round three, none of these MacBooks are trying to lose today. We're going to look at battery now. So on the 12-inch MacBook, you're going to have a 41.4 watt-hour lithium battery compared to a 50.3 watt on the MacBook Air. Now what that's going to equate to is about 10 hours of wireless web browsing on your 12-inch and up to 12 hours on your MacBook Air. So you should be able to squeeze out about 2 extra hours on the MacBook Air, and so the MacBook Air punches right back and takes round three. Both of these MacBooks holding up their own. We're coming into the championship rounds. Both of these computers made their way and they're ready to go. Round number 4 is portability. Both of these computers are going to be extremely portable. They're very sleek, they're very thin, and you should be able to take them just about anywhere. However, the 12-inch MacBook is going to have a slight edge storage, coming in at 2.03 pounds compared to 2.75 pounds on the MacBook Air. And so going from your thinnest to your thickest point on your 12-inch MacBook, we're going to look at 0.14 to 0.52 inches thin, and on your 13-inch MacBook Air, it's going to go from 0.16 to 0.61 inches thin. So taking round number 4, not giving up, goes to the 12-inch MacBook. And finally, coming down to our final round, round number 5 is price. So the 12-inch MacBook is going to come in at $1,300 compared to $1,200 for the entry-level MacBook Air. So you're going to be paying $100 more for a machine that's more outdated than the current cheaper MacBook Air. Now, of course, you can always upgrade your devices on Apple's website. If you choose to max out your 12-inch MacBook, you're looking at spending about $1,864. That's going to give you a 1.4 gigahertz 7th generation i7 processor with 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigabytes of SSD, and Intel HD Graphics 615. The 13-inch MacBook Air, on the other hand, can be customized all the way up to $2,529. What that's going to get you is a 1.6 dual-core 8th generation i5 processor, 16 gigs of DDR3 RAM, a 1.5 terabyte SSD, Intel UHD Graphics 617, and other better features like Touch ID and multiple Thunderbolt 3 ports. So, finally, knocking out the 12-inch MacBook, our winner, the MacBook Air. Don't get me wrong, this computer is great if you're really just wanting a basic computer that you can carry around with you very easily, but just because of the fact that it's more expensive than the more powerful MacBook Air, I say stay away from the 12-inch MacBook. I don't think it's a good value in 2018. I would only say to pick it up if they did a spec bump or at least a price drop. Well guys, thanks so much for sticking around to the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as that helps me out tremendously. Also follow me on social media. I'll include the links in the description of this video. Stay tuned for future content and big giveaways coming soon. I'll catch you guys in the next video.